It is an absolute pleasure to welcome author Charlotte Taylor to a new series of author interviews. Welcome, Charlotte, who is based in the Forest of Dean, Gloucestershire, and thank you for taking the time to share your book with teachers here in the UK. Your book is titled Broken
Hello.
Twigs, Farewell to Faerie Forest. I really like that title. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very fond of it as well.
So, Charlotte, do tell us a little bit more before we get stuck into your book. Tell us a little bit more about your journey as a writer. How did you come to write children's books?
Well, I've always known I wanted to be an author. It's something that has always been at the back of my mind. How am I going to achieve this? I never really understood what my context was ever going to be. I never had that passion in something to write about. And I also didn't have the confidence in myself, to be fair.
Mm.
And when I became a teacher 12 years ago now, that has given me the context and the inspiration and also the courage, because I bombard the children in my class with growth mindset. I finally started listening to my own advice and telling myself I could do it and I can do it. But the main context for me was the birth of our class fairy. So we have a class fairy called Twigs. So this is a doll that one of my friends made for me of Twigs.
Oh.
And Twigs Twigs came into our life very organically 9 years ago. I had a very feisty cohort. Pencils kept going missing. Everything was getting lost. There was no responsibility for anything. So I very glibly one day blamed it on the naughty fairy. And the children loved it, and it stuck. And this was a class of year threes and fours, so 7 to 9 year olds. And that was it. Twigs was born, and she's very mischievous in class as well as in the story. She's a very mischievous fairy. So things will go missing, and displays will get mixed up, and chairs will get moved around, and all this lovely stuff. But what she also does is, if a child is going through a particularly horrible time at home, if they're really feeling very sad, very low, very lonely, she leaves them a little gift of a stick on their chair. And
Oh.
they just covet these sticks. They absolutely love these sticks. So it's just her way of telling the children that they're visible, they're valued, and they're loved. So she's a very magical little fairy. She's a very special little fairy, and she's incredibly real to myself and the children who I teach and the other staff in school, who are all used to her now as well. And over the years, the children wanted to know more about what she got up to when she wasn't in the classroom with us. So the stories started flowing, and that's where they came from. And I thought one day, well, the children are loving these stories. I'm going to write them down. I've got my series of books going now. This is what I can write about. And I haven't looked back. And I started writing them about 2 years ago. The first one's just been published in October. The second book's about to go to the editor. And that's been my journey. And because I've got the confidence now in what I'm doing, and I'm honing my craft, and I'm learning all the time from other authors, and the collaborating with lots of writers and illustrators and editors and all these lovely people in the writing world. I'm learning my craft a lot more as well, and I'm starting to branch off into picture books now as well.
Oh,
So I
wow.
started off with this, my middle grade. Yeah, so this is the middle grade series, the Key Stage 2, based on Twigs the Fairy. But I'm also, because mythical creatures appear in these books, I've started writing picture books about mythical creatures from all around the world as well, to go hand in
Wow.
hand with my chapter books, my Twigs books. So there's loads going on,
That's
loads going on.
amazing. And you're doing this, and you're also a teacher yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
have got a really, really full, full agenda of things that you are working on, and that's absolutely amazing. What's particularly great, that I loved hearing about the book, is the fact that already there is a character that's organic for the children, that's very present, and that character has developed a very unique bond with the children, in terms of celebrating their ups and supporting them on their down times, which is amazing. So can you just give us a quick synopsis of the book itself that you're going to be sharing with us today? Tell us a little bit more about what Broken Twigs, Farewell to Faerie Forest is about.
Well, the title, the series of the title is Broken Twigs. So that's the overarching title, and that's because of the two things. First of all, because of the broken sticks that she leaves on the chair for the children. That's I had to have that in the title somewhere. But also, she herself as a character is very broken at the beginning of the series. There's going to be 12 books in the series. Book 1, which is this one here, book 1 is all about introducing Twigs and understanding how broken she actually is. She's never felt like she's belonged in Faerie Forest. She always has felt a little bit different. She is a very hurt individual. She doesn't really understand why, though. But her way of dealing with that is putting the boundaries up, the barriers up. So she pushes everyone away. She's rebellious. She's mischievous. She's not very pleasant. She's a bit of a loner. She likes her own company, or she kids on that she likes her own company. She's a bit lazy. She kind of avoids any kind of work. And eventually, in book 1, what happens is the Fairy Queen has enough. Twigs won't listen to any advice. The only course of action left to the Queen now is to throw her out of Faerie Forest. So she's banished. So she's banished from the forest, and when she is alone, properly alone, as she's realised she hasn't ever really been alone before, now she's properly alone, she realises that she's maybe not as resilient or as okay with that as she thought she would be. She finds danger almost straight away, and she has a pretty miserable time, to be fair. And then right at the end of book 1, she bumps into our second main character, which is a little elf called Thistle, who is everything that Twigs isn't. He's also been thrown out because he's a bit of a prankster, so he got thrown out of Wookie Woods just as a temporary punishment, just to give the elves a bit of a break. And in his wanderings, he's happened upon Twigs, and he's there at the right time. But over the course of the 12 books, she has to learn a value in each book. So each book is based around a value. So book 1's about friendship. Book 2 is about courage. Book 3 is about teamwork. Book 6, when she finds herself in our class, book 6 is she learns the value of empathy, which is where she's learned to leave these sticks because she doesn't like seeing the children upset. So she's starting to learn the value of empathy. So each of the 12 books has a value that we would teach children in schools. So
Fantastic.
what Twigs's quest is to learn to become the best version of herself that she can be. And only once she has learned all of these values and these lessons will she be allowed to come home. But there's another little element as well. There's a big old dark secret from Twigs's past that she doesn't know about yet. So running alongside Twigs's quest to become the best version of herself, she is also being tracked by a rather unpleasant entity and her army of tree monsters who are called Silvermoors. And we don't really know at this stage why they have this interest in Twigs, but there is a bit of an infiltration in Faerie Forest after Twigs has caused some major chaos. There is an infiltration into Faerie Forest, and so the darkness is getting closer. Let's say.
Wow!
So without giving too many spoilers away.
No, we like twists. We like twists. Twists are good. That sounds absolutely, what an amazing series. So could you specify in terms of age group, which age group of children are best suited to access all of these books?
It's mainly for the Key Stage 2 years, so age 7 to 12. It has been read in my school to the year 1s and 2s who absolutely loved it. I would only put a little bit of a health and safety warning for the younger reader, depending on how resilient they are. But there are a couple of darker elements in the story. So it's just a little health and safety warning. It is mainly suitable for younger ones to hear, that if you read it to them. But you might want to skip over a couple of darker elements that do occur in book 1 and will occur as the series progresses. So it is really aimed for the older child.
That's very, very useful. Very useful. Thank you very much. So as you are all aware, Reading for Pleasure is really at the heart of raising attainment across the national curriculum. Reading for Pleasure is not just about a child enjoying a book. It's also about leveling that playing field of social justice. A child who reads is a child who eventually will write well, who will read widely, and will deeply understand text. The question I have to ask is, how does your set of books, your series of books, connect with the national curriculum?
Funnily enough, because I am a teacher, I couldn't resist the urge to create a planning guide to go alongside my book.
That's very useful.
So it's I'm hoping it will be. I mean, that's where it came from. It comes from the heart, because I obviously, as a teacher, I know how much time is spent planning. A ridiculous amount of time is spent planning, and a lot of people don't see, unless you're in the profession, a lot of people don't understand how many hours and hours and hours go into planning. So there are three main things I hope to get children to learn from my books, in terms of the reading for pleasure, absolutely. The understanding of those core values would be another major one for me, but also developing their cultural curiosity. Because what I wanted to do with the books as well is, within each of the books, Twigs and Thistle visit different realms, and each of these realms are realms of mythical creatures from around the world. And I've chosen creatures that children don't necessarily know or haven't heard of. For example, I just remember when Harry Potter, mentioned Harry Potter again, when Harry Potter came out and the basilisk, I straight was like, oh, and that really piqued my interest. I was like, what's, you know, and I know I'd heard about it, but I couldn't form a picture, so I had to go and research what a basilisk was. So what I've done is I've picked legends that children hopefully are going to, you know, they're going to turn around and say, oh, what's that? Oh, I haven't heard of that. For example, book 2 is about the Thunderbird. So it's the Native American Thunderbird legend. So that's where they end up, is in the realm of the Thunderbird. I have got unicorns in there, because my daughters wouldn't forgive me if I didn't have unicorns in there. I've also got a book with the Icelandic troll. I've got an Icelandic troll. I've got the Baku from Asia. I've got the Tokolosh from the Zulu legend. I've got the Father of the Forest from Argentina. So I've tried to pick legends to help children widen their cultural curiosity. It's coming from the forest as well. I live in the most beautiful place, but it can be very closed in terms of children. The forest is their world. So what we try to do in our school is really expand those horizons for the children, and this is a way for me as well, in the book, to do that for them. And then when it comes to the actual learning domains, so would you like me to share my screen with you?
Sure.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay. So you should be able to see that now.
Yes.
So this is the planning. Yes. This is the planning I have put together for, it's actually, so the planning I've created, as you can see, an instructional guide. I'm hoping to get this onto Amazon ASAP, so that it is available to teachers all over. It's basically a 7-week reading unit, and also a 6-week PSHE friendship unit as well.
Wow.
So it's based on, obviously, because the book one's based on friendship. I thought teachers might like that sentiment. That's my dedication to all the teachers out there.
Oh, that's wonderful. For all the teachers who put their heart and soul into their pupils' learning every single day, you matter. Absolutely.
I don't think teachers get to hear that very often.
No.
So if I go down, so you see, that's Bumblebee. So this is all linking into the national curriculum that you were talking about.
Yes.
You can see, I'll just scroll past that. There's Twigs. Some of my endorsements, which are lovely. So here is week 1. So what I've done is I've broken the book down into chapters. So
yes.
week 1 is actually the prologue and chapter 1. And then you can see here, you've got then, these are the main skills that I am going to be dealing with in terms of my planning.
Very good.
So obviously vocabulary is huge. It's so important that children understand what they are reading and the words. I like in my class, if I'm reading a book, I like to put up a PowerPoint of images. So if there are words that I think children won't necessarily understand, like I've got in my book the term ladle. That's quite an old-fashioned word. So I'd have a picture of a ladle so they could see it as a big spoon. But vocabulary is so important. Obviously then the retrieval, the summarizing, the inferring, predicting, explaining, and then the author choice. So you will then see, if I scroll down, so every week we had it's the same setup. So you can see all of these questions then, and at the end in brackets is the skill that the child needs to access to be able to answer. So we've got predicting, the retrieval, inferring, predicting again, author choice, and it's literally a pick up and go. It's meant to be a pick up and go for the teacher. So you've got then here the prologue. These are all the questions that as you're reading through the prologue, these are all the questions you could be asking the children. And then we've got mind maps going on, chapter 1. I use Venn diagrams a lot to compare. So this one's settings, how are they the same, how are they different? And then once we've gone through reading it together as a class or as a guided reading group, I've got the main activity. So this happens to be a roll on the wall.
Yes.
There's illustrations from my book. That's Twigs. That's just typical Twigs. She's laughing because she's making Penelope drop something. And Penelope's not very happy about it. And then there's the roll on the wall. And then what I've also got in there are independent activity questions if you wanted to set any homework, or if you wanted to have a group to support children, extra support, intervention groups, anything like that. And then I've also got linked writing opportunities. And then this is the PSHE planning for that week 1 as well. So that's looking then at making a friendship hive, because it's based a lot on bees as well. Bees are very important, obviously, as a beekeeper. But the bees help Faerie Forest tick over as well. So yeah, it's kind of all there. So that's how it goes, and then it keeps going. We've got all the resources there that you'd need, and then we're into week 2, and so on. So.
That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for sharing that. That is a teacher's dream resource right there. Books and teaching guide and links to other areas of the curriculum that will really deepen the understanding of the actual series of books. So it really becomes applicable in different realms of their life. That is phenomenal, actually. So thank you so much for sharing that. Brilliant.
We've got children in our school. Sorry, we've got children in our school reading at the moment. They're trialing the planning for us, and they're really enjoying it because they're feeling like they're getting really immersed into the story. So it's nice. It is lovely to hear.
Brilliant. I am going to hand over to you now, Charlotte, for you to share an extract from your book with us. I'm sure everyone is really excited to hear a little bit more about Broken Twigs. Okay, so handing over to you.
I thought I would read the prologue, because the prologue really introduces that little bit of darkness. This is the element of evil in the story. So that's the first. So these, if you can see, those are the Silvermoors. And then that little character there floating above her cauldron is the creator of the Silvermoors. So they're a bit creepy, but they're good creepy, good creepy. So the prologue, or how there came to be wooded monsters. Thick, foul-smelling fumes belched from an iron cauldron set in the middle of the eerie forest glade. A tiny winged figure, no taller than a crow's back, hovered above the cauldron surface whilst murmuring words from an ancient, forgotten language. Below, within the pot, was a twisted, bewitched ladle mixing the unmentionable contents which bubbled like treacle. The task completed, the figure stopped the incantations, and the ladle clattered to the edge of the old vessel, creating an echo that mocked the stillness of the woods. The cloaked being flew back down to land on the barren ground in the shadow of the cauldron and lowered its heavy hood. Long, raven-coloured hair fell limply down, contrasting sharply with the fine pair of silver wings, which looked as delicate as cobwebs, yet as hard as steel. Malicious eyes glared out from a cruel, gaunt face, and as the fairy raised her long and skinny arms, the shabby cloak sleeves tumbled down to reveal the paleness of her skin. "Silvermoors, awaken!" she commanded. Creaking of wood, amplified by the unsettling silence, signalled change was afoot. Each dead tree, which had encircled the old cauldron, started to move. Grey-brown, fissured branches slowly began to fold in on themselves to create misshapen arms and legs. Sinewy, hairy roots then broke free from the soil to wrap protectively around their monstrous trunks. Old mossy knots in the trees would transform to create gnarly, gruesome faces, in the centre of which blazed crimson, malevolent eyes. Although these hideous creatures towered above their tiny but sinister creator, she had absolute control. They shuffled closer, 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 until they could sense her dark aura, and then they bent low to hear the reason for their awakening. Do, do, do.
Fabulous. Really interesting. I'm intrigued. And I'm pretty certain that the children would be intrigued as well. I was like on the edge of my chair, like, oh, what's next? Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is, and I can see so many children in Key Stage 2 just eating their way through these books. Charlotte, you have done a phenomenal job with that.
I hope so.
So, you know, thank you for sharing your wonderful book with teachers. It's always a pleasure to hear the author's voice behind the children's books. I say that all the time. Finally, can you just share with us where your book can be purchased in the UK?
At the moment, because of COVID, I was just about to get some books into some of the local bookshops in my excuse me, in my area. So at the moment, it's on Amazon, amazon.co.uk. You can also email me, and you can purchase a copy from me, and I'll post it off. And I suppose the added value there is I could always sign it for yourself or your children or your school. But that'd be quite nice. And my email is brokentwigs20@gmail.com. Yes. And I've got my own website, which is charlotteltaylor.com. And on there, you will find lots of free activity sheets that go alongside the book. So there's crosswords and word searches and Sudoku and brain teasers and mazes and bookmarks. And they're all free to download for the children as well. So they can enjoy the book and then they can enjoy the activity.
Amazing. Free resources. Tick. That's always brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. We look forward to hearing more about your books as your writing journey continues. And no doubt it's going to be a flourishing one. We will place the link for the books, particularly Broken Twigs, Farewell to the Faerie Forest, in the video. Thank you so much for joining the ReadMaster for UK Teachers platform, home of the author's voice. All the best, Charlotte.